Good morning. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. So in that case, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. My name is Katie. I'm a trainer with Prime Press. And as you know, we're going to be looking at a series of books called Journeys. So if everybody's ready, I will share my screen and start the presentation with you. Sorry, I'm just getting rid of myself because I don't really want to be looking at myself while I'm doing this. Okay, so I'll start off by just telling you what we're going to be talking about today in this outline. So we will first look at the components of Journeys. We will then look at some of the features very briefly. You will see more of the features as we go through the presentation. We will look again very briefly at the methodology that Journeys is based on. And then we will have a unit walkthrough, and that will take up most of the time. So I will show you page by page a unit from the student's book and the workbook, and we'll be discussing some of the features and the methodologies so you can actually see them as they appear. So the components, there is student's book, okay, workbook, teacher's book, grammar book, audio CD, exam prep material. I have to admit, I haven't seen this yet because I think it's still in production. An e-kit, we will talk about this later. And I believe that there is also interactive whiteboard software. Again, this is in production and I haven't seen it. The features now, very briefly. So Journeys, there are 5 levels of this, and they are in line with the CEFR levels B1 to C1. And these levels correspond as well with your prep and secondary school classes. Each level of Journeys is age appropriate. So the characters who appear in the images and in the dialogues and the texts start off at sort of young teenage age, and as the course progresses, they get older, so that they're the same, more or less the same age as the students. The whole of the course is theme-based. And we will have a look at the topics. And these are topics that were chosen because they will appeal to teenagers. The content is international, but it's culturally sensitive. So nobody's going to be upset by any of the visuals or any of the content in the texts. There are CLIL lessons every second unit, and we are going to look at these in more detail. As we go through, I will show you a whole CLIL lesson and we will look at it very closely. The course uses a range of methodologies, and this creates an attractive teaching environment, which is of course conducive to better language learning. We will have a little look at the methodologies. It accommodates different learning styles. This is important because, as you know, students don't all learn in the same way. And if you want to keep their interest, then it's important to appeal to their visual sense, their listening text, reading text, different ways of introducing the content and dealing with the content. There is a constant balance between accuracy and fluency throughout the whole of the course. As we know, you will have all come across people who have very good and accurate language. They know all the grammar structures, they know a lot of vocabulary, but they can't actually speak properly. So Journeys tries to create a balance that will hopefully result in your students speaking with a high level of fluency and a certain degree of accuracy as well. And there is full teacher support. as we mentioned, the eKit and the IWB software. Okay, well, as I said, we'll have a brief look at the methodological approaches here. The first one, inquiry-based learning. Now, this emphasizes the student's role in the learning process. So the students are encouraged to explore the material, ask questions, and share ideas, as opposed to just sitting and listening to the teacher talk. The content makes the students curious and want to explore it. It's also based on the students' experiences. Okay, this uses the students' own life experiences. It takes what they know of life and it builds on it. And this has the result that the content is meaningful for them. They want to learn it. They want to find out more about it. It says something to them. In both of these approaches, the students learn by doing and not just memorizing the information. Now, I've said this before, but you will know this saying. Almost every culture has a version of it, but Confucius is supposed to have been the first. And he said, tell me and I'll remember for an hour. Show me and I'll remember for a day. Make me do it myself and I won't ever forget it. So that's the approach that we would like to take. This means that the students' learning is more effective because it's more interesting for them. And if it's more interesting for them, it's not such a hard job for both the teachers and the learners. Okay, you're supposed to actually enjoy doing this. We've also mentioned before that there is CLIL lessons here, content language integrated learning, and this creates the development of language competency. So this is to do with the students' fluency as well as their accuracy. And as I said, we will look through a whole lesson on this. And all of these help to develop the students' 21st century skills. And these are skills that everyone needs to have to deal with modern living. There are 12 of these in total, but we tend to focus on the 4 C's. So critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. And as we go through the unit, in the unit walkthrough, you will see for yourselves how these 4 C's are dealt with in the content of each lesson. And then, because we can't talk about methodology without mentioning Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so this is a hierarchy of cognitive skills that was developed by Mr. Bloom, hence the name Bloom's taxonomy, in 1956 and was revised in 2001 with new labels, although the actual content remained the same. And it was devised as a way of classifying types of learning. The theory here is that higher order thought is developed by building up from lower level cognitive stages. It begins with remembering and goes through the stages you can see. Sorry? Okay, I'm going to go on. So it begins with remembering and goes through the stages you can see, culminating in the highest level, which is creating. Now, as with all learning methodologies, there are people who do not believe that learning takes place in this way, or that remembering is at the bottom of the hierarchy. Other people believe that learning is not linear like this. That would be a really nice topic for us to have a conversation with on another day. Perhaps in person when I come to visit you. However, it's a useful framework for us, and it's good for us to be mindful of this when we develop our teaching materials. So this is the contents page of the first level, the B1. I don't expect you to be able to see it, because of course there's far too much on there. Certainly on I've got a small laptop, so I wouldn't be able to read it. And we will have a look now at the topics in the B1 level. Unit 1, we have being sociable, family and friends, rules at school, in the school canteen, workouts, sports clubs, the biosphere, planet Earth, fun and games, jokes and stories, gatherings, and merrymaking. And as you can see, all of these are topics that students at B1 level, young teenagers, can identify with, they're interested in, and they would probably like to learn more about all of these, which they will do in the course of the book. The themes, there are 6 themes per level, and there are 2 units on each theme. Now, let's have a quick look at the unit organization before I take you through an actual unit. So each unit is organized in the same way with the same series of sections. So we have an opening poster. There is a warmer, reading and vocabulary, text and reading skills plus discussion, the first grammar, listening and language skills. There is the second grammar presentation, which is secondary, smaller, writing, and then the unit closes with a fun page, which, as you can imagine, has fun activities on it. I'll show you that when we get there. Let's have a little look through the unit now. The first page of the unit is a whole poster. And as you can see, this has nice visuals on there, attractive to the students. It engages them. It should spike their interest, provokes curiosity, and it provides fluency practice. So you can get them to ask questions, or you can ask questions such as these. Maybe in the first unit, you could ask them the questions, but then you can have them doing even pair work or group work, coming up with questions to ask each other. So who are these girls? What's their relationship? How old are they? Where are they from? What are they doing? How do you think they feel? Why? And why are they covered in paint? There are many, many, many other questions that you could ask, or that they could ask each other or comment on. Also on the poster page is a summary of what you're going to find in the unit, so everybody knows what they're going to be doing. So the first double page spread here is the warmer and the reading and vocabulary. And this has different kinds of input that appeals to all learning types. We've got the visuals here, we've got quotations, we've got interesting facts, we've got written questions. So here are the interesting facts. I can't actually read that because it's too small. It's about friendship though. The whole of the unit is about being sociable in different ways. Then there are written questions to encourage discussion. There are vibrant visuals. Okay, stimulating quotes here. You can use these to provoke discussion. Then we have the beginning of the reading and vocabulary section. So there are text warm-up questions for discussion. There's pre-reading vocabulary focus and practice. 2 exercises on this. Then you have the reading text and the skills work. So this is a meaningful topic for teenagers: how to make friends, how to make new friends. Kids are always worried about this. They agonize over how to make friends. What are their friends doing? If they're still friends with people, if they're going to fall out with them, who says who about what? So I don't think there is a single teenager who won't be able to identify with this topic. The first activity here is matching headings. Then they have a true, false, or not mentioned exercise. Now this particular one tests different reading skills. It tests for gist, for specific information, and for inference. So there's quite a lot of skills work going on here. And then because the whole of Journeys is created around the importance of integrated skills, there's also a discussion, okay, pair work here. This could be expanded into group work as well. As we said before, it's thought-provoking visuals, different kinds. There's a drawing, there's this man sitting, we don't know what he's doing. People could talk, students could talk about that. Then let's have a quick look at how grammar is dealt with here. Now, I believe personally that grammar is very important for the students to learn, and it should be taught in a way that they can deal with. It needs to be interesting for them. I don't think grammar is the most important thing, but I think it's good for students when they get into a mess with the language. It's helpful if they have a solid grammar base so they can go back and work out the problems with the language. When I was learning Greek, I didn't have that, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I still make mistakes, and I wasn't able to work out what my mistakes were because I only learned the grammar much, much later. If I had learnt it as I was learning to speak, it would have been really helpful. So as we looked at before, Journeys has two grammar sections, a major one and a secondary one. And these use a predominantly deductive approach, but they also include inductive elements. And this encourages learners to be autonomous and develop their critical thinking skills. Let's have a little look at the difference between inductive and deductive. So the first, deductive, the rules are presented first, examples are given, and then students apply the rules and practice the target structures. In inductive or guided inductive, the learners look at the language where the target structure is being used, and then they work out the rules or patterns for themselves. Now, it's quite difficult to do inductive grammar presentation because it takes a lot of time. But what Journeys has done is it doesn't use a strictly deductive approach. The students do actually have to do some of the working out for themselves. And the teacher's book will give you also ideas about how to manipulate the different types of grammar. So this is what the grammar page looks like. You can see for the first grammar, it's more than a page, it's a page and 3/4. We're going to have a look at this in a little bit more depth now. Okay, that's a tiny picture of it, but the first exercise you can see here, it's presenting the present simple, present continuous and stative verbs. And this is more of a revision because at B1 level, they know this already. So we've gone straight into an exercise here, adopting a test, teach, test approach. So you can give this to the students and see how they are, what mistakes they're making. It's just a simple gap fill exercise. Then there are, okay, this continues here with practice. The students are given the rules and they have to match them with examples. And then in exercise C, they have an exercise here to see whether they've understood this. Now you can use this as a diagnostic, really, and then you can, once you've done this and you've seen how the students perform on this, you can then decide as to how much more actual teaching you want to do of the structures. So this mainly uses a mainly deductive approach. Then the second page. Sorry, I'm just going to hide. Okay, the second page here, there are more exercises here. So there are 2 exercises of control practice. One of them is just seeing if they can actually put the verbs in the correct form. The next one is a concept check, okay, to see whether they know whether they've understood the difference between actions and states. And then here we have the freer practice with integrated skills, and it's a discussion here. So the exercises ask them questions that will require them to use the target structures. The next part is the listening and skills, language skills section. So there is general guided practice. That's good. I've made a spelling mistake there. Typo. General guided practice to warm up with the questions. Then there are photographs here that give them more guided speaking practice, and this serves as a pre-listening task. They then do the listening. They hear the recording that presents the new language in context. The new language is presented in the Everyday English box here, the language focus. And then the next exercise is a focus on accuracy. So it looks at the language in the Everyday English box. Some of them sentences have got mistakes in. So this helps with the students' accuracy. There then follows freer practice for fluency using the target language. The speaking activities tend to be role play activities. Now, the role plays are actually quite nice, as you know, because they allow the students to take on roles. It makes them not vulnerable. They can talk about things in a way that they wouldn't talk if they had to talk about themselves personally. So every unit has several role plays, and the teacher's book has very guided instructions as to what you can do, the different things you can actually do with these. You then have the second grammar section, which is shorter. This one is dealing with adverbs of manner, and this time it has a PPP approach. So you start off with the presentation, then there's controlled practice, and then there is freer practice, again with the integrated skills discussion using the target language. The next section is the writing section, and there's an introduction to the writing topic. Again, we've got integrated skills with speaking. The students have to discuss these questions. They're given a writing model. Again, it's writing, but with the integrated skills, the students have to read. There's a writing sub-skill here, the organization of a text, and this focuses on topic sentences and paragraphing. Then there is the writing practice, the writing exercise that the students have to do, and they're given a writing guidance checklist to follow. Now we come to the CLIL lesson. This is a double-page spread at the end of every second unit. This one is from Unit 4 of the B1 book. And we're going to look at this in more detail, but I just wanted to show you without little bits on from me what it looks like. This one is a science one. So before we go on to look at it in detail, let's discuss why CLIL lessons are actually beneficial. What do they do? So with journeys, unlike English medium environments, the learner is not expected to have a proficient user language level at the beginning of the course. Okay, so the language is graded according to the level of the particular book and the stage that it appears in the course. The students learn the language almost without realizing it. They get involved with the topic, and that just happens to be in English. They're learning other things. It's interesting. The topics have been chosen to be interesting, and the topics widen the students' horizons, and it allows the lessons to be more student focused and therefore more empowering. So you'll find that in these lessons, you'll be able to take a slightly lesser role in teaching and let the students kind of take this and run with it. And of course, all of this develops the 21st century skills, because the students, they create something, they make something, they have to collaborate. Collaboration involves communication and quite a lot of critical thinking to actually do the projects that you'll see. So let's have a look at this again in a little bit more detail here. So the first activity, it's a speaking activity, and it's meaningful for them. Okay, they do this in group work and pair work. They have to discuss a number of questions that introduce the topic. Then they have a reading text and a dialogue where they actually have to do something here. The new vocabulary is presented in context. There is a little glossary box as well that will contain some of the maybe more demanding or less common vocabulary for them. These activities can all be done in pairs. It's up to you to decide whether you want the students to work on their own at this stage or work together. And as I said before, there's minimal teacher involvement. And this means that you can spend much more time going around the groups of students, encouraging them, monitoring them, without having to stand over and, teach them, as it were. So this develops critical thinking skills. Sorry. And then there's a do-it-yourself exercise, which is project work. And this encourages collaboration and communication, and it's motivating and empowering. Some of these projects they'll be able to do in the class. Some of them they can do for homework. Some of them they can do at other places in the school. And then it gives them reading practice too, which is meaningful. It's actual instruction, so it's something real for them. And then the whole of the task of the project necessitates collaboration and communication. So that takes us back to the 21st century skills as well. And as we said, throughout all of this, they're learning English, but they should be so involved with the actual project that it's not such a big deal for them. They're learning it incidentally. The last page in the unit is called a fun page. And this contains different activities that are slightly lighter in nature. They're matching activities, they're crosswords, word searches, different kinds of puzzles. And that concludes the student's book unit. Then there is the workbook. Now, I always find it's funny that this is called a workbook because it actually is a lot more than you would imagine a workbook to be. For me, a workbook has exercises that use exactly the same vocabulary and grammar that is in the student's book. This doesn't do that. This is an extension really of the student's book. You can see it starts off with the same poster, okay? And it expands the theme. So being sociable, this theme now is about online friendships. There is pair work here, discussion in the beginning. There is further vocabulary, which is different vocabulary from that they had in the workbook. So again, it's an expansion of the student's book. Here they have an extended discussion topic, okay, which will prepare them for the reading text that they're going to do. They have the reading skills are here. There are different kinds of questions based on the text. There's discussion based on the text. So this again uses integrated skills. And then there is the grammar section. Now, this doesn't present a new grammar. This is the grammar that's presented in the student's book, but it's consolidation here. So it's a revision from the student's book, control practice. This is freer practice. It's asked the students to describe the following pictures. So they will need to use the target grammar to do this. Teachers can decide how they want this to be done. You can get the students to write them or do pair work or class discussion. It's entirely up to you how this is. Then there is collaborative pair work. The question here, I don't know if you can read it, but it says, imagine you're looking out of your bedroom window. What can you see? Describe the scene to your partner, and then your partner has to draw it. So this is definitely collaborative pair work communication. If the one student isn't able to convey using the correct language, then the other person in the pair is not going to be able to do the activity. So even if there are problems with communication here or problems with language, the students will be able to collaborate, communicate to find a solution. If somebody doesn't understand something, they have to ask them. It's good communication skills. Then there is practice with visual prompts, asking them to describe, make sentences about the picture using the words in the boxes. So it's using the grammar and the vocabulary. And then they have guided pair work discussion. Okay. Again, using here, it's using all of the grammar and vocabulary. Then there are the listening and language skills here again. Okay, so it's extended language skills here. There's listening, speaking, discussion, and role plays. As we said before, these are a nice way to take the students a little bit out of themselves. They don't feel vulnerable. They feel much freer. They can use the language. There is a whole writing page here. And again, the skills here are integrated. So there's discussion, reading and writing. There's vocabulary work. And this culminates with writing task. Okay, this is similar to the writing task in the student's book, but it's different. And then the workbook ends with, let me just go back to show you, ends with more vocabulary. Just gives them extra. It's kind of like a mini picture dictionary. And then there are additional features of the course. So we'll just have a quick look at these. So there are short videos to accompany the student's book. And I believe that these are in the e-kit, which I'll talk to you about in a second. There is the e-kit. The e-kit is a teacher support component that has online versions of the books, the student's book, the workbook, the teacher's book. It contains exam prep material if you're preparing your students for international exams. As I said, it has the videos, it has the audio scripts, and it has photocopyable and printable materials. For example, the teacher's book, you can, there's a PDF of this, you can print this out. It has interactive games as well. Yeah. There is a grammar book. Now, I haven't included pages of this because I don't have the PDFs of this yet, but I have worked on it, and it goes thoroughly over the structures that are dealt with in the student's book. There's lots of practice there. It can also be used as a standalone course. There are exam skills material. As I said, these are in the e-kit, I think. I'm not sure if this is actually a separate hard copy or not. And that brings us to the end of our journey here. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I don't know if we have time for any questions. No, I don't think we do. So I'm going to stop sharing of this now. I will put myself back on here, I think. Anyway, does anybody have, is there anything anybody would like to say? We could look at the, let me have a look. So as we said, this has been recorded and will be sent to everybody. And it will also be available on our YouTube channels and social media channels. So, okay, I think if you have any other questions, then your local team will be able to answer these for you. And if you have any queries, you can email me. And I think that's probably it from me. So our time is up. And I will stop talking.